Welcome. This is the Mentally Whole podcast. I am your host, Lauren Green. This podcast is a safe place for us to have weekly discussions about mental health, Christ, personal development, and the tools to live our best lives. Stay tuned for a new episode. Hey y'all, this is Lauren Green, and this is another episode of the Mentally Whole podcast. We are back, right? Last week my laptop was in repair. It was in surgery because it had broke, and the screen was broken, so I had to get it fixed. But we are back. Don't forget to subscribe, share, review, and rate the podcast, because when you do that, I know you are enjoying the content. Also, don't forget to subscribe to my email list, because I am doing a free webinar very, very soon. So today's topic is about communication styles. I did a little not Q&A thing, but I did like a Ask Me Anything poll on my Instagram story, and this was one of the suggested topics. I wasn't really sure what the person wanted me to talk about as far as communication was concerned, but I felt led to do communication styles. I feel like we don't talk about communication styles enough, so I'm going to explain the 4 communication styles and then give you guys some tips on how to communicate better. So the first communication style is passive, right? So passive people have difficulty expressing themselves. They might tend to give in to others, and they might have difficulty making eye contact with people, right? The next communication style is assertive. So assertive people have the ability to express their desires and needs with confidence, right? They're able to boldly say, like, hey, this is what I need from you. This is what I desire from you. They also encourage balanced conversations in which both people have a chance to speak, right? They also have the ability to say no, and they also maintain good eye contact, right? The next communication style is aggressive. So aggressive people will dominate the conversation. They will talk over people. They will have poor listening skills, interrupt frequently. They can be controlling or demanding. They can, criticize people. They oftentimes are, try to intimidate other people or even threaten others, right? They also can point the finger and point the blame on other people versus instead of taking accountability for their actions, right? They point the finger towards other people instead of taking accountability for their actions, right? And the last communication style is passive aggressive, right? So passive aggressive is a mix of passive and aggressive, right? It's that simple. Passive aggressive people use sarcasm frequently. Oftentimes their words don't match their actions. Also, they have difficulty acknowledging their emotions, right? So passive aggressive people, they indirectly are aggressive versus directly being aggressive, right? So they might not directly say, like, shut up. They might indirectly say it, or they might, walk away from a conversation. Instead of saying, like, oh, I'm done with this conversation, they might just be like, oh, I'm going to just walk away, without not really stating, like, this is what's going on with me, right? Or they might appear passive aggressive people. They might appear cooperative. They might appear like, they're, agreeing with you, but they might also be doing things to annoy you or disrupt things, right? So they might seem like, they're with you and they agree, but behind the scenes, they might be doing some other stuff, right? So you're probably wondering how to communicate better, right? We all have to communicate with our employers, with our family, with our friends. So let me give you some tips on how to communicate better. So the first tip is, how did your family communicate growing up? Right? Were they mentally and emotionally abusive? Did they listen to you? Did they talk to you about things? When you told them things, did they believe you? Did they listen? Did you guys have sit down conversations every week? How did your family communicate? Did they sweep things under the rug? Were certain topics hush hush? Were certain things out in the open, right? How does your family communicate? Because how your family communicates, you kind of just grow into how your family communicates, right? So you just kind of like, if you were taught to like push certain things under the rug, you're probably going to do that as an adult, right? So how did you communicate? How did your family communicate growing up? Right. The next tip I can give you is find out what's the best way for you to communicate. Like, is it writing it down? Is it sending voice notes? Is it over the phone? Is it FaceTime? Right? Figure out what's the best way for you to communicate. Also understand if you are a person that needs time to process. Like, I know for me, if certain things happen, I need time to process how I feel before having a conversation about it. I know some people are like, okay, I'm ready to have a conversation right then and there. But for me, I need time to process and to think about what just happened. I've gotten better with that over the years, but I still need time, like an hour or two, sometimes a day, just to get figure out what's going on in my head. So yeah, it's important. And the last thing that I can give you guys is understand your communication flaws or your communication weaknesses. Understand the areas that you need to work on as far as communication. So like for me, early on, if things happened, I would just shut down. Like, I wouldn't talk about it. I would just keep it all to myself, right? So it's important to realize what you do when you get upset and angry, right? It's important to realize that, because how you respond or how you communicate is really important in those times where you're angry and upset, right? So over time, once I became a therapist, but once I started working in the mental health field, I realized that it was important for me to understand my own emotions, right? So instead of shutting down, really understanding, like, how am I feeling and why do I feel this way, instead of shutting down, right? Right. So I hope this episode blessed you guys. It was a short one. I recorded this essentially on Sunday this week, but I just didn't feel like it was a good quality episode, so I recorded this again. So I hope you guys are blessed by this episode, and I will see you next week. Bye, guys.